welcome back. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is being accused of overreacting after her request for 800 National Guard members ahead of President Biden's State of the Union address. The Guardsmen and women are expected to assist with traffic control in the district. They will not be armed. Critics say this is a show of force, and it really relates back to the Capitol breach on January 6th. Moments ago, also, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, also approved up to 300 National Guard personnel to support operations with the U.S. Capitol Police. Nancy Pelosi's office also says they are closely monitoring this truck convoy. So far, 38,000 people have signed up. And joining us to discuss this, Harvard Law School Professor Emeritus and author of Guilt by Accusation, Alan Dershowitz. Professor Dershowitz, always great to talk to you.
Thank you.
I wanted to just talk to you about this after the Canadian protest and so many concerns about our First Amendment rights to redress our government for grievances here. Obviously, you can't shut down major arteries and roadways and things like that. We have one of these convoys talking about being a boa constrictor around Washington, D.C. But if I want to show up to the Capitol, I still have a right to protest peacefully, don't I?
Yes, you have the same right that Black Lives Matter had in Oregon, and the rule of law requires that the same responses be made no matter whether the protest is a left-wing protest approved of by the administration or a more right-wing protest disapproved of. The one rule is clear, is under the First Amendment, you can't pick and choose. And the Black Lives Matter protests in Oregon were tolerated, praised by many. They caused death, destruction of property, and very, very little was done about it. People were bailed out, and you can't have a double standard. People say, well, this is Washington. That's different. But being Washington cuts both ways.
Right.
It is also the place the Constitution says you can peacefully assemble and petition for a redress of grievances. So we can't assume that there will be illegal blocking. If there is blocking of highways, it is illegal. If there are blocking of abortion centers, it's illegal. You can't block entry. But of course, Black Lives Matter blocked entry into courthouses. Very little was done about that. So we need a single standard of justice.
It would be nice to have a single standard of justice in the country. Of course, we're not there yet. I wanted to also ask you about Justin Trudeau. Here's what he actually said. He was condemning Vladimir Putin here, but he's talking about the rise of authoritarianism around the world. Take a listen.
As we see a rise of authoritarianism around the world, as we see challenges increasingly to democracies, to democratic principles, we need to all stand strong in defense of those values and principles.
Now, he's talking about Vladimir Putin there, but I think you could also make the case that he's talking about himself. I mean, what we witnessed from Justin Trudeau is not what we're accustomed to seeing in a modern Western democracy. And Canada doesn't necessarily resemble that after last week. Well,
Canada is still a great country and a great democracy, and it has a great Bill of Rights, not quite as absolute as the United States. But Justin Trudeau overreacted, just as his father may have overreacted in 1970. I advised his father, Pierre Trudeau, in 1970 when they invoked the War Measures Act after the killing and kidnapping of important officials. Democracies often overreact, and I think Justin Trudeau did overreact. What I didn't like is two things. One, he said that the views being expressed by the truckers are unacceptable. In a democracy, there's no such thing as an unacceptable view. And then he attacked a Jewish member of the parliament who had criticized him by saying, you're supporting Nazi swastika waving protesters. No, there are in any protest, there are going to be a few people like that. It's true on the left, it's true on the right, but you can't condemn all legitimate protesters by pointing out that 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 flew Nazi flags or communist flags.
There was also a Liberal member of Parliament who said honking your horn is tantamount to saying Heil Hitler. So speaking of overreactions, that's just another one. We also, we see this, it's hard for me to wrap my head around this because it's such a vast juxtaposition.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Look at my colleague, Professor Lawrence Tribe, who said yesterday that Tucker Carlson should be charged under the Constitution for opposing policies of the administration. Tribe and I joined together in opposing the Vietnam War, in opposing the Iraq invasion. Were we committing treason?
Well, this is a question I ask you, Professor Dershowitz, and you're the only one who ever answers. But to all your liberal friends and your civil, what happened to you guys? Lawrence Tribe, we've lost him. Nobody's standing
Us
up.
guys.
The ACLU as well. I mean, we have this other guy, too, who is a far-left defund the police champion up in Canada. His name is Jameet Singh. But he's actually leading the support of Trudeau protests. And, you know, we see this condemnation of police activity here in America from Democratic leaders, but they don't condemn the activity of the Ottawa police in Canada.
Well, there ought to be condemnation where condemnation is warranted, no matter which country does it, whether it be Russia or Ukraine or Canada or the United States or Israel. Any country that violates civil liberties should be condemned, but proportionally. Don't condemn Canada in the same breath that you condemn Putin. They're not in any way comparable, or in the way you condemn Iran. So let's keep condemnation proportionate. Yes, we expect more of Canada. Yes, we expect more of the United States, but we have to keep our condemnation proportionate. Those are both great democracies, as is Israel, and the Ukraine is struggling toward democracy. I represented the former president of the Ukraine in Kiev, and we got a fair trial and an acquittal. So we have to not jump to conclusions about countries. Every country is different. Canada has a slightly different freedom of speech right as we do.
Yes.
They require balance. Ours is more absolute.
I'll tell Professor Dershowitz, all my memer friends, to stop doing the Trudeau is Hitler memes. Not applicable here. No. I'm kidding, of course.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
Yes. Let's demean the survivors and the people murdered by Hitler by comparing him to anyone else. Literally,
it's never
in
appropriate. You know, you could maybe make the exception for China and their ongoing genocide right now, but you know there is a definition for genocide. We know what it is. Professor Dershowitz, thank you so much. Always great to talk to you.
Always my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, now let's talk about those protesters, John. A Democrat representative saying truckers and protesters should be seized and given to small trucking businesses that are looking to really now expand. Of course, this is as the People's Convoy is heading to the nation's capital to protest during Biden's State of the Union address next week. Joining us with one of those truckers of the convoy is our national correspondent, Mike Carter.
Well, good afternoon, John and Bianca, and good morning from beautiful, sunny Southern California. Today, we're about to embark on a pretty epic journey over the next 11 days, where truckers from across America are starting off in Adelanto, California this morning, just outside of Barstow, and over the next 11 days, be heading east to Washington, D.C., getting into the D.C. metro area on March 5th. I'm here with the kind of media coordinator for this People's Convoy, Liz Rooney. Liz, we've seen it happening in Canada. Now it's happening in the United States. Why are these truckers feeling the need to group together, and do they find an alliance with what's happening in Canada right now?
Well, Mike, it's not just the truckers, it's the People's Convoy organization itself, as well as all of America, and quite frankly, Canada. And if you really think about it, the world. Everyone is sick and tired of these lockdowns and the emergency orders to keep them locked down. So people need to stand up and say what's really going on.
Absolutely, and we're going to be finding that out in about an hour from now. We're heading up to Adelanto right now. Going to be an interesting morning. You'll want to stay with Newsmax throughout the day, and we're going to be getting on these trucks. We're going to be traveling with this convoy over the next week or so. So stay with Newsmax, and John Bianca will catch up with you later today.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.